like to welcome everybody to tonight's regular meeting of the Monroe Planning Commission. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025, and it is 7 p.m. And can you do roll call, please?
I'd be happy to. Commissioners present and establishing a quorum. Commissioners Falk, Blair, Dawkins, Lockhart, Lowe, Petrino, and Walsh.
All right, and the next section is item 3.0, which is public comments. But I do not believe we have anybody signed up for the regular public comment section. So we will move on to agenda item 4.0, which is approval of minutes from the March 24th, 2025 meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Right, is there a second? And are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? No, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to item 5.1, which is our public hearing for the proposed accessory dwelling unit and permit processing code amendments. The presentation is going to be led by Amy Bright. In just a moment here. Right, Amy, go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Hey, good evening. We are back again to discuss accessory dwelling units. As you know, this is one of a few different packages that we're bringing forward this year related to housing based on state mandates. So tonight is the public hearing. This has already been presented at CHSAB, and it's also been presented to the P3 committee. And so after tonight, if you choose to approve it, it will go, we'll come back for the findings of fact, and then it will go to the city council for an introduction and then another public hearing. So the staff report and the proposed amendments are in your packet. So just a brief overview of the presentation, just some history on why we're doing this, the proposed amendments and the requested action. So over the last 10 to 15 years, the state of Washington has been moving in a direction to increase housing opportunities in the state of Washington at different varying income levels. Lots of different things have passed over time. And including some policies from the city of Monroe, our housing action plan, the brand new comp plan, all recognize the need for removing barriers for accessory dwelling units. I'll go over each item individually, but this graphic is helpful to see where we stand today. That's the left column, and then where we would be moving to, and that's the right column. So currently a type 2 land use permit is required to get an accessory dwelling unit. And that does take a bit of time. There is public noticing that's involved with the type 2 decision. And it's been recommended from Commerce to move to a more streamlined permit process. And so we were recommending to move it to a type 1 decision. It goes a little bit faster. And it also, while it doesn't have the public comment period in there, city staff is reviewing, either way, we're reviewing it to the code, and that's what we're looking at today. Currently, we allow one attached or detached accessory dwelling unit, and that can only be 800 square feet, 4% of residents, which covers less. And we're moving to allowing up to 2 accessory dwelling units, either attached or detached, and the size limit would be whatever is greater than 1,000 square feet or 50% of the primary residence, excluding garage space. Like I said, we're moving from 1 unit to 2. Square footage is on there again. Right now, we limit where the entrance can be to the accessory dwelling unit, and it really needs to be hidden and off to the side. And we are unable to do that with the new House bill that passed. So any design requirements that we have for primary dwelling units, those would apply for accessory dwelling units. We can't have anything more restrictive. We currently require one additional parking space per unit, and we will continue to do that. We currently require the owner to reside in one of the units and to place a covenant, reported against their property. And we cannot do that anymore, so we're, proposing to, not require the owner to live in one of the units. I was going to have a shortened version of my presentation tonight, but with how many people we have here, I am gonna go over each item. So that we can go back to them later if needed. House Bill 1337 requires us to have, the city to update our definitions to be consistent across the state. And so accessory dwelling units, dwelling unit, attached dwelling unit, and detached dwelling unit are proposed to be updated. We're required to allow all ADUs in zones where single family detached dwelling units are permitted. So they're currently, we already allow them in those zones. And so, this applies to, R4 through R15 and also the limited open space zone. Like I said, we're moving to allow 2 accessory dwelling units per lot in addition to the primary dwelling unit. The maximum size that they can build is 1,000 square feet. Apologies, there's a typo there. It's different in the packet. 50% of the primary dwelling unit square footage, excluding any garage area. So if their home is 3,000 square feet, they can have an accessory dwelling unit up to 40% of that.
Yeah, 50 or 40.
It's 50. Apologies, there's a typo there. The packet is correct.
Is that for each unit? Well,
Yes, each unit.
up to 1,000, okay.
Like I mentioned before, we can't have entry restrictions, so the front door can be facing the street now. So we're removing that requirement in our code. Any design requirement we have can't be more restrictive than the primary unit. There's an interesting section in there about, setbacks. So, and that's not on this slide, but if the unit is against an alley and it's in if there's a previously constructed structure that's within a setback, we would need to allow them to convert an existing structure into an accessory dwelling unit, even if it's within the setbacks. And then also they can construct an ADU on an alleyway. With 0 setbacks against an alleyway, as long as we don't plow that alleyway for snow. But this slide was, again, mentioning that we can't be more restrictive. We're removing the owner occupancy requirements. That means that an owner could own the primary structure and 2 ADUs and rent them all out. House Bill 1337 says that we can't require street improvements for accessory dwelling units. We don't, and so no change is required. It also says that local governments cannot prohibit the sale. We cannot prohibit the owner from condoing the accessory dwelling units and selling them. The city of Monroe does not regulate condo sales, and we are continuing to not regulate condo sales. We require 1 parking stall per ADU, and we will continue to do so. In House Bill 1337, it says that we can't require additional parking if they're within half a mile of a major transit stop, and there are no major transit stops in Monroe, so we're just gonna keep it at 1 parking stall. Again, the location of the ADU we can't be more restrictive We can't have it require them to put it in the backyard or somewhere off to the side like we currently do. We can't have special height limitations on ADUs that are more restrictive than the primary dwelling unit. We currently don't have special height restrictions for them, and so we will keep that the same, so we can comply with state law. And there is a staff report explaining everything in the packet, and all the code amendments should be attached as well. Kelly?
Question. In certain zonings, well, actually all zones, there is a certain percentage of lot coverage. If the primary unit is meeting the maximum lot coverage, can you still have an ADU?
They will still need to meet lot coverage requirements. Currently in R4, it's at 50% lot coverage. And so a lot of the houses being built up on the hill are already at 50%. So to add something to the backyard, they would be going over their lot coverage. So that we aren't anticipating many in areas where they already have met or exceeded their lot coverage.
So is it allowed?
It would be allowed if it was in a basement or if it's an attic.
Not, right, because you're not impacting the lot coverage. But once you hit the 50%, if someone wants an ADU, that will increase that 50%. The city would not allow it.
Correct.
You mentioned, got one more question. That is, for ADU, you need one extra parking space. I have two ADUs, so I need two extra parking
Yes,
spaces.
it's per ADU.
Okay, thank you.
Carla?
However, like, you can live on the hill, if we did, HOA that doesn't allow it, we can't change that. That would still stand, but
Correct. So, another piece of House Bill 1337 says that any new CCNRs that the city is reviewing, we will need to make sure they don't have that in their CCNRs, but if they're currently in there, then they're currently in there.
Mary. Okay, so you could have somebody downstairs and somebody upstairs, right? Like in an attic. So would you still need two parking spaces? Would that, or how does that work?
So typically, a single family residence is required to have two off-street parking stalls. They can be in your garage or in your driveway.
Okay.
If you want to add one ADU, you'll need to make sure you're adding one more parking stall. You'll need to at least have 3 in that case. But if you have 2 ADUs, you'll need a total of 4 off-street parking stalls.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, commissioners? All right, we will move on to the public testimony portion of the hearing. The public is allotted 3 minutes for individual speakers. We will have a timer that is going. And as a reminder, the commissioners don't do a back and forth conversation. So asking questions, we unfortunately won't be able to respond in this moment, but staff are available after the meeting to ask questions if that is desired. Is there a motion to open the public testimony portion of the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded, all in favor? I'll call the speakers up, but if you can still give your name for the record and your connection to Monroe, that would be helpful. I have Sherry on the list first. Go ahead and come up. We have a chair right here and the microphones in the middle will capture you just fine. So I see.
Okay, hi guys. I'm Sherry Novak. I'm downtown Monroe, long-time resident. And I had just actual questions that you can't answer, but just things that I didn't hear and I was trying to read to see what was coming up. Just things that have come up in my life. I have a lot of neighbors I know who are now living in or have family in RVs or campers and stuff on their property. And is that still bad? I know you can't answer. there's also, my daughter at 29 had a huge stroke. And these things come out of nowhere. Is there anything that there's a fast track if something horrible happens in your family and you need to bring somebody in to take care of them, or you want, you know, you love your family, but they might need their own space? But can that be done? And I'm not sure if takes a long time. And I know this is gonna be faster than it used to be, but still, I don't know, just, is it legal to have them move in? If you have a garage on your property and you wanna convert that into something, are we going to be required to bring it up to the newest and greatest building standards, which are, from what I've heard, they're very different than they used to be. Like you can't have wood siding anymore on the exterior, it has to be non-burnable, and those things are just, I don't know. I was trying to find a forum where I could ask questions. So more questions than comments, but I'm really glad you guys are addressing this, and I'm so happy you do this and I don't. And thank you guys. I know we have really creative people here who are gonna figure it all out. Yay. I'm really excited about the way it's going, and I love downtown. I love it to be walkable. And you have done a wonderful job. I'm just praying that downtown booms. Really liked your idea about a water park down there at your new piece of property. Totally off base, sorry. Okay, so that was me. There were more questions. Okay.
Thank you, Sherry. All right, next is Wes.
Evening. My name is Wes Hagan. I live up on the hill at Roseville Ridge. At some point, I expect that you're gonna annex me in, but that's not why I'm here. Regarding these, I've been through most of them. I think that they look very good. One thing that was on your slide was your 1,000 square feet. Well, the way it's written now is 800 square feet or 40%, whichever is less. Your slide didn't reference the 50%. This should just be written as a maximum of 1,000 square feet, referencing that 50% is sort of irrelevant if it's under, because you allow up to 1,000 square feet. So this is the 50% sort of becomes irrelevant if it's maximum of 1,000 square feet, just FYI. Assuming I'm reading this correct. All that said, yeah, I really hope you move to approve this stuff pretty quickly. I have a house in downtown Kelsey that backs up to an alleyway with no garage. And if I'm gonna build a garage, I'd like to be able to do it the best way possible, which would include potentially putting a living space up above. Next on your agenda, later on your agenda, is you're talking about being able to split properties. I think that really needs to be processed in conjunction with this, because it might impact how people design and build. And again, trying to do things right the first time just makes it a lot easier and a lot better for the city and everybody involved. So hope that moves forward and becomes valuable there too. So, oh, and Hannah and Amy have been super helpful up to this point, even though this stuff is still in discussions. I have a pre-planning meeting next week and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. Right, and then Stacy.
Hi, I'm Stacy McGregor. I live at 514 West Main Street at the corner of Kelsey and Main. And I think this code as proposed is a great start. I don't think it goes far enough. I did a very brief analysis, like 5 minutes, of an area around my house. Everything in pink is not allowed to have an ADU. That's Main Street. All of the old housing stock on Main Street can be a commercial use, can be residential if it hasn't changed to commercial, but cannot get an ADU. So my home on Main Street, I can't have an ADU. if you want to keep the old housing stock viable and beautiful, allow us to maximize our economic potential of our lots. I have a large basement, I can't move my mother-in-law into it. Please add mixed-use neighborhood to allowing them to have ADUs. Additionally, in the R7 zone, which is most of the old downtown stock, those homes were platted at the turn of the century. They were platted with lots that are smaller than the current R7 zone requires. Though none of those lots, in my reading of the proposed code, can have an ADU. So on this map, everything in blue cannot have an ADU. Everything in pink cannot have an ADU. If you want to adopt a code that allows ADUs, open it up even further. It's better than it was, and it's great, and I appreciate the state and Amy working so hard on this, but go even farther, because it's not enough. You're not going to get ADUs the way it's been. Thank you, Stacy.
Right, and is there a motion to close the public testimony portion of the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is there any additional commission deliberation?
I do want to ask a couple clarifying questions from what was brought up. So the map, we had discussed this a little bit before, and then it came up during comments. We're not saying that it's maximum of 1,000 square feet. We're saying if someone, you said earlier, if someone had a 3,000 square foot house, they could do up to 50% of that, which would be 1,500 square feet. So, maybe it's still not written super clearly, and is it cleared up in what we're gonna adopt
I
or
think,
move forward?
yeah, I think it's clear. It says the greater of 1,000 square feet or 50%. I don't have it in front of me. so-
Yeah, it was what was exactly up there. That was clear.
50% of the primary dwelling unit. So if you have an extra large house
Mhm.
and you want to convert your entire your entire basement into that, that would be 50% of that. So you can exceed 1,000 square feet if your house is large.
And then a different clarifying question, so the old downtown lots, being that they are smaller and some of the houses take up most of the lot, does that get into what Tony was mentioning earlier, that some of those have already exceeded their size max for their lot and coverage, so they wouldn't be able to have ADUs?
So I think that the question kind of goes back to lot coverage and what our code says for that, because we're applying ADUs the same as we do to any other structure in that zone. And so in R7, it's 60% lot coverage. I mentioned R4 is 50%, but R7 is 60. And so they would still need a new lot coverage. And so that would be a bigger topic over changing our lot coverage and what does that look like versus having, there's a lot that goes into lot coverage. It is a planning requirement, but it's also an engineering requirement, and it goes along with stormwater.
So that would be, we could still move forward here, and that could come up again later on with lot coverage. Someone could want to discuss that again later.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the engineering factors that you have to take into consideration is stormwater. And, so beyond a certain, if the stormwater, if the stormwater facility is not adequate in the street, really, it can require you to do some additional engineering to do more lot coverage. So that's really where that in conjunction with the impervious surface, which I get the conversation about that, but we see there's lots in town that already at or possibly even exceed the lot coverage because of maybe built on it. But there's still a lot of them out there. I mean, we have a couple of applications now that are going through for lots in the older part of town that can still meet that lot coverage.
Okay, I have one last one. So we had talked about this also once before, but I don't remember where we landed. The adding mixed use neighborhoods to this. What am I not seeing about how impactful that would be? It seems like it would be a good move to do that, but is there areas that I'm forgetting that it would be not appropriate for?
So I think that, So two parts to that. We don't allow single family detached residential in the mixed use zone. And so what the state law is telling us to do is we have to make sure that we're adding ADUs in zones that we do allow that. Single family detached. We do allow attached in the mixed use zone, but not detached. And then, I think before we talked a little bit about having an accessory residence to a business, but really in the very definition of ADU in itself, it's accessory to a primary dwelling unit, and so that would be a different type of unit. Does that make sense? I think that was another discussion we had.
Yes, thank you.
You like to say Patrick's Day.
We'll change the colors for the seasons.
So I'm not opposed to it. I think it qualifies for Irish citizenship. So we've been talking about ADUs and lot coverage. But what we have to keep in mind that even though you cannot put a detached ADU because of lot coverage, you still have the right to do an ADU within the framework of the existing building. And I just want to emphasize that since we've been so focused on detached ADU, that's still an option when we run into that lot coverage.
Correct, they can be attached, like, some people convert a basement or an attic, but they don't, or you just don't have one, so that's not an option for you, or your detached garage building. An ADU above it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? Okay, let's see. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And then, is there a motion for action?
I'll make a motion to move to direct staff to draft findings of fact and conclusions of law, recommending that Monroe City Council approve the proposed amendments to MMC Title 22 Unified Development Regulations as required by House Bill 1337 to ease the barriers for construction of accessory dwelling units.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries. Right, we are moving, I'm sorry. Agenda. We are moving on to old business. Item 6.1 is adopt findings of fact, proposed code amendments for the conversion of existing commercial buildings into residential uses, and my agenda says it was gonna be Leanne, but.
She's online.
Oh, she is online. Sorry, Leanne.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, and I do see you. I'm sorry.
No worries. Here, I'm just going to turn up my volume just a little bit more. Okay. Can you guys see my presentation okay?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Tonight we are here to vote on the adoption of the findings of fact for the proposed code amendments that would bring the city into compliance with House Bill 1042 regarding the conversion of existing buildings into residential uses. Just a quick overview. Washington State House Bill 1042 is a state mandated requirement designed to encourage the conversion of existing commercial buildings into residential uses and to encourage the redevelopment of existing residential buildings into housing at a higher density. Excuse me. The code amendments would allow for that greater density in commercial and mixed use zones that also allow for multifamily housing as long as the conversion takes place entirely within an existing building. And the code amendments limit additional requirements for the conversion project beyond life and safety requirements as required by House Bill 1042. So far up to this point, we have been in front of the Planning Commission, you all, for an introduction and a public hearing. And we've also had a discussion with the Economic Development Board and the Community Human Services Advisory Board about the proposed code amendments. The requested motion for tonight for adopting the findings of facts is up on the screen. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Here we have a motion.
I'll move that the planning commission adopt these findings of fact and conclusions and authorize the chair of the planning commission to sign the findings of fact on behalf of the commission and recommend that the Monroe City Council approve the amendments to MMC Title 22 Unified Development Regulations as required by House Bill 1042 for the conversion of existing structures into residential uses.
Is there a second? Second. All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion by commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, commissioners.
Moving on to item 6.2, unit lot subdivisions code amendment, and Anita is also online.
Good evening. Sorry I couldn't be there with you today. I'm feeling under the weather, so we'll see how this goes. I'm going to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint for this one. Let's see. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Great. So for tonight, I'm bringing back the discussion on unit lot subdivisions code amendments. I'll give a quick introduction. I know we have two new planning commissioners, so hopefully you were able to look at the agenda packet, but I will go over some of the things that we discussed in the previous meeting. So per Senate Bill 5258 in 2023, the state legislature requires all cities to include provisions for unit lot subdivisions. Unit lot subdivisions allow a portion of the parent lot to be divided into unit lots that don't meet the bulk regulations of the underlying zone, but allow for fee simple ownership of housing units. So on the right side is a graphic of an example of a unit lot subdivision with 3 unit lots and a common tract. And so the common tract could include things like parking or open space area. The cities regulate subdivisions in MMC Chapter 22.68. And this new law would require us to add a section for unit lot subdivisions. I pulled out some of the examples that we talked about at our last meeting. So the first example on the left, it shows a unit lot subdivision. So if we're looking at this one, the entire lot is called the parent lot. And so that lot has to meet all the dimensional requirements. So setbacks, lot coverage, lot width. And in this particular example, there's a single family home. And then there's a triplex unit in the back having access off the alley. The middle example, same thing. The entire lot is considered the parent lot. And this is the townhome unit development with 4 lots. This one, and then going back to the first example, that it just so happens that one does not have any common area. So the second example, it does have a common area, and that's the hashed blue area. And so that would be the common area for that development. And then the third example is something we discussed, and this kind of relates to Amy's code amendment for ADUs. is that this would allow an ADU to be a unit lot. So in this particular one, it's again, the entire lot is the parent lot. Each duplex unit is a unit lot as well as the ADU. And then you see the areas where the common areas are which would include parking, possibly, and then also any open space area. The introduction was given to the Planning Commission on March 10th of this year. Just to give you another definition of what a unit lot subdivision is, basically creates new lots much like a typical subdivision, except the ULS allows flexible application of dimensional standards. So that's the lot width, setbacks, and lot coverage. And in a ULS, the development as a whole is on the parent lot, which conforms to the zoning dimensional standards, while individual unit lots are not required to. Unit lots are sometimes also called child lots, and these are individual sellable legal lots of record with their own tax or parcel identification number. As stated before, this is required by state law. The deadline for these code amendments is June 30th of this year. And the process for a unit lot subdivision will follow the same process as a short plat. These are the code changes proposed. So section 22.68.045 of the subdivision chapter, which is attachment 1 of the agenda packet. This is where we are adding the unit lot subdivision section. And so this is what we'll go over more in depth during this time. So we'll get to that at the end. These other sections I did want to point out, but unless you have any questions, it's basically just adding definitions in our definition chapter. So we need to add definitions for what a unit lot subdivision is, also including a definition for middle housing and some other definitions that apply to this code amendment. Also, amending chapter 22.84 permit processing. And so this is just adding the type of permit for the unit lot subdivision, which, like I said, is the same as a short plat. So it's a type 2 permit. It gets noticed to the neighboring properties. It is an administrative decision, but it does get noticed. And so basically that's just adding that into everything in our in chapter 22.84 that talks about permit processing and permit types. So if there are no changes requested today, which we will go through that section that I have drafted out for you tonight, the direction for staff would be to prepare a staff report and schedule the public meeting. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if excuse me, if everyone would like to go to attachment 1, which is the unit lot subdivision section that I've drafted out for you. I'm sorry. So, I've started with the purpose section. Then we go to process, which, as discussed before, will be just like a short plat or short subdivision. Here's some other sections where it talks about where this will apply to. And these are all the different zonings that this particular process would apply to. There's also a section for deviation from dimensional standards. So that's what we talked about, where the unit lot would be able to deviate from those setback requirements, lot coverage, and lot width. There's a section on approval criteria on how this application will proceed as far as each unit will have to have individual sewer, water, and power meter service. All buildings would have to meet the building and fire code. As discussed in our previous meeting, the parking, there's no exceptions for parking.
Anita, we do have a question on this end and it'll give you a tiny little break.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So on page 117 on F, for each unit lot shall have individual sewer service, water service, and power meter.
Yes.
Brought it up last time. I'm really worried about like the way we have things laid out, if they all have an individual sewer, on that taking up so much setback.
Mhm.
Are we able to do where they all go into like a bigger one and then there's only one connection into the street? Because like this, that you can't like build over sewers. I feel like if you have if you have like 3 units in the back and all of that has to come forward with 3 separate ones, that's gonna like take up all of the lot.
Mhm. Yes, so, well, since this is essentially the same process as a short plat, that's the way we do it for short plat, and so all the utilities would be put into an easement. Um,
But they could go into each other with an easement of
correct,
one hookup?
yes, yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. But each lot would have to have their own connection and own service because they would be their own individual lot with a parcel number.
Randy?
So I have a question on the permitting process. I know you say it's a type 1, so it's administrative.
Type 2, but yes, administrative, yes.
So the planning staff will review it for all the, make sure that it meets all the code requirements, and the noticing to the neighbors gives people an opportunity to bring forward something that they believe doesn't meet code. That's, that would be their only thing that they could bring forward to like prohibit that from happening.
Correct, yes. Anyone's welcome to give their comments to us. And we will double check on what the comment is saying. But yes, if the project meets the code, then yes, we would have to approve it.
Alright.
Okay.
Is that, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Was there another question or should I just keep going with the sections? I think we're almost through. Let's see. So the next section, oh, we're still on approval criteria. So we're talking about parking. So we decided in the last, or the planning commission decided in the last meeting that it's preferred to have an access easement or maintenance agreement rather than an HOA, because that can be cumbersome on the property owners. And especially since these types of developments are kind of meant for smaller developments, kind of like infill developments, having an HOA is probably not the best course. So we decided to do the access easement and maintenance agreement. And then there's just some things about what notes will have to be placed on the face of the plat. And kind of same thing. So if an applicant comes in, same as a short plat, we need to apply for the preliminary approval first. Once you receive preliminary approval, then you submit for your grading permit, your civil review. Once that's issued, then you would start your improvements on site. And then when everything is approved by all the city departments, then you can apply for your final plat. And then that gets recorded with the county. And then at that time, that's when those lots become legal lots with a tax parcel number. So that's what I have included in the first draft. I'm happy to take comments or if I missed anything, or if you want to see something else in it for the next draft that I bring to the commission.
I just have two other questions. So if someone already has an ADU approved on their property, they could take advantage of this. It doesn't have to be only ones that are built after this is taken adopted.
Possibly. So the parent lot, the main lot would have to first meet those dimensional requirements or standards.
Okay.
If that is the case, then it may be possible for that existing ADU to become its own legal lot through this process.
And then, the difference between this and just standard development on a vacant lot, is it because this is only applicable if there is like a parent lot with a house on it? Is that what triggers this being different than normal development?
Then say a normal short plat.
Yeah.
So yes, correct. So if you're doing a standard, typical, short plat, each lot would have to meet the dimensional requirements, the lot width. But in this case, this allows you to create those unit lots.
Could do it on a vacant lot? It doesn't have to already have a house on it?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope. And then there's no action requested on this tonight, correct?
No action requested. But from the comments that I received tonight, I was wondering, did you want me to bring this back for another discussion? Or would it be okay to start the process to draft a staff report and schedule a public hearing?
We'd probably say a public hearing. Anybody opposed to that? Yeah, I think we're ready for you to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Anita, do we need a motion for someone to request you to draft the staff report?
I don't need a motion, no.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Anita.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I've been battling probably the same thing. I'm at tail end of it was still a lingering cough, so
Yeah.
I know how tough it is. Thank you for pushing through that for us and.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, you do, that's right, you do. Goodness gracious. All
Yes, I do have one more.
right, well, we're gonna move on to that now.
Okay.
Business, item 7.1.
Okay, perfect.
Trip
So-
reduction.
Yes.
Yep.
So I don't have a formal presentation for this one. The purpose tonight is to give you an introduction and to have a discussion. And just to get some comments to see how you would like me to proceed further on this code amendment. So this is the Commute Trip Reduction CTR Code Amendment and CTR Plan Update. The Washington State CTR law requires the city to update a CTR plan every 4 years. Under the Washington State CTR law, certain jurisdictions, including the city of Monroe, are required to adopt CTR plans and local CTR ordinances. These ordinances must mandate that CTR affected employers, those with work sites that employ 100 or more full-time employees who begin their shifts between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. on weekdays, develop and implement CTR programs. So I am the Employee Transportation Coordinator, or ETC, for the city. And so it's my job to implement the CTR program here and also to update the CTR plan and ordinance as required by state law. The current plan that's attached to your agenda bill tonight is the 2025-2029 City of Monroe CTR plan. I started this project back last year. We work with community transit, and we have an interlocal agreement with CT, and they help us implement the CTR program. CT provided a template to Monroe and to the other jurisdictions, and from there we drafted the plan depending on the issues and tailored towards each specific city. So in our CTR plan, the following sections have been updated. So there's a section on the benefits of CTR, performance targets, services and strategies, how this plan aligns to other transportation plans and to the comprehensive plan, and also the different types of community engagement that CT did, as well as we did some engagement as we incorporated this into the comprehensive plan outreach. And then just to go back and let you know that the 4 major employers in the city are the City of Monroe, the Monroe Correctional Complex, excuse me, Canyon Creek Cabinet Company, and Natural Factors. So this draft plan was submitted to the Puget Sound Regional Council and to WashDOT, and it has been approved. So the last step in this process is a local adoption by ordinance. So we're taking this to the process now. Some minor code amendments are required for the CTR code, which is chapter 22.84. Oh, I'm sorry. 22.88. I'm sorry. This is our CTR code. And there's minor amendments such as we need to add a definition for drive alone commute trip, updating the old references to make sure it says the 2025-2029 CTR plan, and adding a section where affected employers can choose at least 5 implementation measures from the provided list. So this is all be in the code. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about commute trip reduction and the program that we have at the city and any of the code changes, or if you have any questions about the actual CTR plan.
Thank you. Can you identify the major employees?
The affected employers? They are identified by community transit, and it's identified by having 100 or more employees.
But how do you identify which ones have more than 100 employees? The reason I'm asking this question, because I feel bad even asking questions at this point. The high school is not listed. It has 140 staff members, and they start work at 7:30. Monroe High School.
Monroe High School.
Right?
Well, but it's just at the high school, they have 140 people listed on their staff. 139, I'm sorry, hyperbole.
Oh, okay. Because I've never seen them on listed as an affected employer. Okay, so I'll put that down.
Just go onto the school district website for Monroe High School and go to the staff directory.
Also, let's see, I think it's because school lets out earlier than go back to
Information I had, and the criteria was over 100 people to stop at a certain time in the morning, and
again, yeah.
that criteria.
Okay, yeah, let me check with community transit, because community transit, like I said, they're with our ILA with CTR, they provide us that information. And I will ask them about that,
Thank you.
because that's a good question, yeah.
And Carla, there's some questions.
Employers that are identified, are any of them currently using a CTR plan?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Of the employers that are identified,
Mhm.
any of them currently using a CTR plan?
Yes, they're required to abide by, so the CTR plan is the City of Monroe's plan. So we need to implement that, but yes, all affected employees have their own requirements they need to do under the code. And that includes having an ETC or employment transportation coordinator. So that like what I do for the City of Monroe. So yes, they are required to abide by the ordinance.
That's already been in effect.
Yes, this is just an update of the current of the plan because we're required to do it every 4 years. But they have they've been doing their own CTR program at those work sites, correct?
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? No. Right, like, I believe again, it's, are we ready to direct staff to draft the staff report and schedule a public hearing? Yep, all right, and again, no motion is needed as far as I'm aware. So, thank you
And,
so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the questions, and that's a great question, Tony. And I will get that information for you for the next planning commission meeting.
Thank you, Anita.
And please get well.
Get some rest. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 8.0, discussion by commissioners and staff. We will start online with Bob, who we have not heard from yet tonight.
The weather's beautiful. Enjoy the spring that's coming. Thank you, Anita, for powering through. And great job, everybody. Great job, staff. Thank you.
Mary?
Well, I just want to say during spring break, it was nice outside. We enjoyed Lake Tide, and as we're walking around Lake Tide, we were discussing music in the park that's coming up, and everybody seems to be looking forward to that. So it's been fun.
Carla?
Thank you.
Thank you both to Anita and Amy for your presentations and going through everything. Very much appreciated. And my voice isn't quite here either. We kind of all have the thing going on, but we agree, we got great weather, Brandon. That's it for me.
Brandy?
I think we are making good headway in our work plan for this year already. These are major things that we've already been talking about for a while. And just like for mentioning the CTR and how those, the goals for the comp plan and, are getting hit by trying to do compact infrastructure where people can walk to places. I mean, all these things are just really coming together, and, I'm excited for the rest of our work for this year.
Tony?
Thank you. So I had mentioned earlier about the article. In this past Sunday, Seattle Times, it's in the mixed section, for those who would like to go hunting at the library. And it starts on page 1 and goes back. But I wanted to read the last comment. And let's see now, I have to find it. And finding the bookstore, which is Main Street Bookstore. And Barr felt magical. That was the experience of these writers for the Seattle Times in visiting the Galaxy Theater, Main Street Bookstore, and Gino on Main Street.
All right, go ahead, Kelsey.
In regards to music at the park, I got a template today on all of the stuff that's going on in Monroe. I don't know if everyone must have got that in the mail, and there's just a lot of cool things coming up, and I'm excited about. All of them, there's like movies under the moon. I don't know if we've done that before, but, and seeing our logo on that was cool. The new logo, it looks snappy, it looks really nice. I'm like proud Moravian. And thanks staff and great presentations and yeah, I'm excited for things to be moving forward.
With spring break, the kids and I, we were enjoying some of the nice weather as well. We went fishing, not in town this time, but we went fishing out of town, so that was nice for spring break. Coming up on the 25th, which is a Friday, it's 1 or 1:30, I can't remember which one, but there's going to be, the annual Arbor Day tree planting at Lake Ty. Every year there is a class from Firelands Elementary, and this year my son's class is actually part of that, so. I'll be with the class as a volunteer, but it's, especially if the weather's nice, but rain or shine, people are invited to come down to Lake Ty on the 25th to. Watch as the mayor gives a quick little speech and the kiddos help plant a tree at Lake Ty. And then still watching that park come together at Curry View, and it's looking fantastic. And my kids are like, it looks done, mommy. I'm like, not quite, almost, and we will be there. So hopefully everybody's enjoying the weather, and huge thank you again to Anita for pushing through those 2 presentations. Leanne as well, who I think she's logged off now, and Amy for the presentations and information tonight. And thank you to the members of the public who came and spoke with us for the hearing. Again, there's members of staff that are here tonight, so feel free if you have additional questions, and any of us are willing to probably chat with you as well. Moving on to staff, Lance, do you have anything tonight?
I think I found the answer, or Amy found the answer. I'm gonna steal her thunder here. For that question about major employer, in the definition in the code, it says that they have to be operating for at least 12 continuous months.
Oh,
So that might be why the school district or the schools don't count. Because that did seem odd when you asked that. So that we'll double check that, but I think that it's maybe the reason. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add. I was gonna mention the new brand. You'll probably see it in all the presentations and the documents for the city. We're in the process of doing forms and,
What does it look like?
you'd be surprised. I think we have.
You didn't see
Oh,
my, it's
yeah.
right here, it's on the agenda, Bill. Yeah.
That's interesting. Really, yeah, mountains,
And
a
then,
suggestion of a valley too.
Do you see the flags from the speedway in there?
and like an eagle. which
Who
we
designed it? Who came up with it?
There was a consulting company, J-Ray, I think was that name, that had been working on it for, it's been going on for about a year.
That is fun. Like,
It's interesting what different people see different things in the logo, which I think is probably good. That's all I got.
Amy,
I haven't been here in about a month, so I don't know if I mentioned, I did a pre-app for a potential go-kart track, outdoor go-kart track. It's just north of the Monroe Road next to Adventure Motorsports, and so they might come in. So another, I don't know, family fun thing to do in Monroe. But this is now our second or third pre-app with them, so hopefully they'll work, but you never know. And then Lan's probably gonna kick you for saying this, but I did a presentation recently with EDAB. They're really interested in the downtown master plan. It is on their work plan for this year to start looking at it, but it is not on our work plan. And so hopefully that will be coming in 2026. I don't want to misspeak though. The downtown master plan was adopted in 2008 and has not been updated since then.
I know we had asked about it, and originally it was on the plan to be this year, but I think it's because of all this, the legal stuff and everything that kind of got pushed out, because I know I'm really anxious and I'm excited to work on the downtown master plan, because it's been a while, and there's a lot of stuff in there that talks about, downtown being the heart of the community, and it's in a document, and like to see that actually be the feel, and that everybody can agree that that's kind of, because it's the goal of the city, and so I'm looking forward to that work too.
Yeah, they're excited about working on it, but I think that really, it was pretty clear that it was way later this year for them to even start talking.
Anita, I have to ask just in case.
Thank you, Molly. I did want to say thank you for Amy for finding that. Yeah, I believe that's correct, Tony, and that makes sense because when I go to the ETC networking meetings, there's never anyone from the schools. There's just other private businesses that attend. So I believe that's correct, but I will double check with CT on that. Is it that's probably why schools aren't included in that affected employee or major employer. So thank you very much. But I don't have anything to report. Hopefully I'll be better and see you all in person soon. Thank you.
And Hannah?
I don't have anything besides this weekend. On Saturday is the first DriftCon event at the Speedway. They're big events in town. Formula Drift is like a huge deal. It always happens at the end of summer. It's like an international race event that happens in our town. And DriftCon happens here too. So I'm going to that. Looking forward to it. The weather's been beautiful.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Is
So moved.
there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Wow.